This has got to be the weakest board in ownership in the Premier League, and probably any other league in Europe by far, with the most arrogant manager and the most spineless bunch of players I think I've seen for a long time in an Arsenal jersey. That's how bad this is. Yet Arsene Wenger continues to seem to smirk and enjoy not the results but the press conferences when people asking him, well, Mr. Wenger, that you built this club and when are you going to go? No, you didn't build the club. You're 21 points. 21 points, Shaq, off the top of the league. That's an embarrassment.
It is, and you just don't know how it's going to get any better, sadly. And as Arsene Wenger continues to dilly and dally and try to have everybody playing this guessing game as to his future, I think this team continues to get worse. Craig makes a point. You know that when you go to these teams, you have to scrap first. This Arsenal team has never been able to scrap. The thing is, they always let their quality shine through. But now you look at this team, you wonder where that is going to come from. Ozil hasn't been at his best. Okay, had a decent game against West Ham. Let's be honest, West Ham have been allowing everybody to have decent games all season long. Now all of a sudden, Ozil has a decent game against West Ham. You're supposed to believe he's back to his best. Alexis Sanchez continues to cut the most frustrated figure I have ever seen. And unless something happens quickly, and by quickly you can only assume it's Arsene Wenger, I'm not sure how or why he stays.
Most of the clubs in the Premier League at the top are progressive clubs now. They're searching for new ways and buying new players, bringing in new people. Arsenal are regressive. They're going back the way. It's fact. 10-2, Bayern Munich. The last 4 games, just a little analogy of how it's been. And Wenger, again, one of his 75 quotes and excuses after the games was, well, Crystal Palace wanted it more than us. Well, how many times has he said that this season against weaker opposition? It's his job, Seb. It's his job in there to motivate the Mesut Ozils and the Sanchez's. And by the way, the 2 centre-halves today, Mustafi and Paulista, were like two babies who got bullied by Christian Benteke. I thought Crystal Palace were excellent. Arsenal were absolutely pathetic.
Let's bring in our friend Paolo Bandini. He's a Arsenal season ticket holder, so this one maybe hits a little bit closer to home. Paolo, what did you take away from today's match?
Well, I mean, it sort of felt like a lot of the same, unfortunately, and I can't disagree with most of what the guys have just said. It feels like this is a cycle that isn't going to be broken until something changes at the top. I think the unfortunate thing is that the reality of the situation is that no one is taking control of this situation outside of Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger has been left with so much power at the club at this point that until one of Ivan Gazidis, who doesn't seem to be minded to do anything, until Stan Kroenke, who's the other person who could take control of the situation, until one of them makes an effort to step forward, actually say, okay, someone has to take control of this, it's not going to happen, because Arsene Wenger is effectively the sporting director. He's the manager. He has all of the power within the club, and right now he's the only person steering the ship.
Paolo, I just want to ask you a quick question. If this continues in the same manner, is it feasible Arsene Wenger is going to be manager at Arsenal come August next year?
Well, like I said, this is the question that we have to ask. Who's going to take the decision away from him? Until someone makes it evident that they even want to make that decision, makes it evident that they sort of feel empowered to make that decision, because it seems like everyone's either waiting for, again, Kroenke as the owner to say, this is my team, and actually I'm realising that this is damaging to my team, or they're waiting for Ivan Gazidis, whose role it should be to take control of these situations, but never seems to be stepping forward, never seems to be putting himself in the position of even being present in these conversations. It's left in Wenger's hands, and clearly he has an emotional attachment to this club. He has an emotional attachment on all sorts of levels. I certainly think that the talk of sort of him leaving before the end of this season is pie in the sky. He's got another FA Cup to aim for. He could become the manager who's won the most FA Cups ever in history if he wins this one. So I think anything before the end of the season is not going to happen. But at some point, for him not to continue as manager, somebody else has to show leadership, and that's what's missing at Arsenal. There's an absolute void of leadership beyond Wenger at the top end of the club.
Seb, I call these Arsenal fans, and I was kind of generalising a good few weeks ago, I called some of them spineless, because some of them have sat back and just sort of soaked it up and lived on the past, and Wenger was great between 96 and 2004, and he was amazing. There's no doubt about that. But I really do feel now sorry for some of them, because it seems their voice has actually not been heard. And I think there's no greater way sometimes to make change than the person on the street. The public sometimes don't think they've got a voice, but they do. But I almost feel here that the arrogance and the financial business model that Arsenal are running are taking over from the actual spirit of what football is all about, and that is to succeed and to win and to progress and to try and aim for the top. And I really don't feel Arsenal are doing that at the moment, and I certainly don't feel they'll do it in the future if Arsene Wenger continues in charge.
The away supporters at Selhurst Park today were chanting, "You're not fit to wear the shirt." Are they pointing at players when really all the fingers should be pointed at Arsene?
In all fairness, I do think a lot of these players have hid under the rock whilst Arsene Wenger rightly has taken the brunt and the most of it, as a manager should do. The buck should stop with the manager. But let's be honest, these players, half of them, they've got no fight. They've got no battle.
But is that on Wenger?
Is
that on Wenger for picking them? Is that on it?
No, it is their fault. But Shaka, as a professional player, you've got to have pride in your own performance as well.
Agreed. But at the same time, we can't put this on anybody else's plate. It's not as though half of this dressing room has allegiance to some other manager. Arsene Wenger has been there longer than some of them have even been born. So there's absolutely no excuse. There's no other person to look at as to why these players hide, or why do you sign players who hide, or why do you sign players who aren't willing to go into the bunkers with you, as these quite clearly are. And now, yes, I agree. There has to be a certain amount of professional pride which these players aren't showing. But if those players lack that backbone, again, that is down to Wenger. He's the one who signed them. He's the one who they've always played under. He's the only one who's been there. He's the only one who anybody can account to.
But and I agree with that 100%. But as a player, let's be honest, those Arsenal players tonight, not everyone, because there'll be some who actually care. But most of them, and quite a lot of them, I think, will get on the bus, and that bus will leave.
At 3-0, you saw a lot of walk.